Jalen Brown led the way with 35 points for Boston. LaMelo Ball was having a great year, 36 points in a losing effort. But Boston held Charlotte to 102 last night. Joe Mazzulla talked about the defense after the game.
Honestly, I think our defense kept us in it the entire game. I mean, I think it's another one of those games where anytime I feel like the easy thing when you're losing or not playing well, it's like, oh, it's the defense, and you take a look up and, Ball's got whatever he's got. But in reality, I thought our offense let us down the entire first half, and our defense kept it in and close. And, you get to halftime and you're like, oh, it's a 6-point game. We're not playing the way we need to on the offensive end. And, here's 10 points that we can get better at defensively. You take that away, we're winning. So I thought our defense kept us in, but, in the entire game. I thought we took it to a different level. And then I thought connecting a better offense there made us even better there throughout the second half.
What do you like about the team, how they competed tonight?
Yeah, I love, I think the focus that we had, the defensive intensity that we had early on in that game helped us build a lead. I thought the unselfishness offensively and the pace and execution was great for most of the game. Credit our guys. They came on the road in a hostile environment versus a really good physical team. And I thought they competed to the final buzzer, which is great. Put us in a position to win a game. I felt like our third quarter, into the third quarter, missing that dunk after a great defensive possession, allowed them to get a little bit of momentum with an offensive rebound, some unders versus their three-point shooters, and it bled into the fourth quarter a little bit. So some things to definitely take from tonight, but a ton of really good things.
All right, good things also for the Toronto Raptors last night. They beat the Miami Heat 121-95 as Toronto feeling good heading toward the playoffs. The Miami Heat, not as much. Miami definitely slated for one of the play-in games again coming up next week as the NBA playoffs begin. Scotty Barnes had 25 points and 8 rebounds, but the story really more or less has been the struggles of the Miami Heat all season long. Here's Norman Powell about closing out the season strong.
What happened that this sort of is turned off? There was a point in the season when it was looking so good. Now, by Thursday, you could be locked into number 10.
Yeah, honestly, I don't got the answers. I don't got the answers, but we gotta come up with some in between now and Thursday if we want to try to continue to move up or get to a little better positioning in this play-in. So that's really all that matters, finding out what the answers are. I don't got them right now. Got to go back, watch my clips, see how I can be better, watch the game back, and then when we have our team meeting, be able to have some positive input in how we can correct this stuff.
And we'll have full coverage of the NBA's play-in games next week here on Newswire. Meanwhile, the Houston Rockets will not be a part of that. Looks like they're locked in almost to the 5 seed, but, things can change in the end. Houston beats Phoenix 119-105. They win and cover as 1.5-point favorites. KD had 24 points yesterday, and a nice confidence win, says Kevin Durant, who are currently the 5 seed in the West.
How does that help you heading into the playoffs?
I mean, it's cool for today. When we prepare for the playoffs, we're not going to talk about this game. We're not going to worry about this game. But just the style of play and the continuity from where we've been going the last week or so is cool. But we can't hang our hats on these games. We just got to keep building our habits. And once the next season starts, which is the playoffs, we get rid of all of the stuff that we went through and focus up and focus on our opponent. So, yeah, it's good momentum to have as we finish the season. But once it's over with, we just move on.
All right, meanwhile, last night, the Los Angeles Lakers playing without Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James. So what do you think happened when they played Oklahoma City? You'd be right. They got blown out. 123-87, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 25 points. Also, the Clippers had Kawhi Leonard available last night, and they beat the Mavericks 116-106. Cooper Flagg, by the way, in a losing effort, had 25 points and 9 rebounds. All right, let's get to some Major League Baseball action. The Dodgers beat the Blue Jays 4-1. Dodgers is road favorites. Shohei Ohtani went 1 for 3. John Schneider yesterday after the game, very disappointed in the offensive performance of his Jays.
Not anxiety. I think patience comes into it. What you're swinging at comes into it, and then not being afraid to just take a walk at times. And that's all part of it. So, again, it's a tricky thing, and pitchers are good. Whether it's starter, reliever, pitchers are good. You have to be convicted in what you're trying to do in every situation. Whether it's bases loaded, nobody out, or first and third, one out, whatever it may be, it's kind of just do your job and move it on to the next guy. That's what we were really good at last year. It's what we, are striving to continue to do, and it's just not happening right now.
Jays off to a slow start. They'll see Shohei Ohtani on the mound today at 4 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, the pitchers' duel did come to fruition yesterday as the Red Sox defeated the Brewers 3-2. Garrett Crochet outduels Jacob Mizorowski as Trevor Story went 1 for 4. Boston only got 3 hits and ended up winning this game. Here's Garrett Crochet, not just on his start, but also saying that the Miz did well too.
Kind of always looking for a little bit of an edge wherever you can get it. I think that definitely felt like we needed to stop the bleeding. That's a really good kid on the other side. We made him throw strikes and we capitalized there in that inning. But clearly the stuff's incredible. We were grinding all night just for base runners, period. Wilson got the first hit in the 4th inning, was it? So a night like tonight, who's on the other side, you kind of know that you got to be on your A game. That's really all.
Much needed win for the San Francisco Giants yesterday. A lot of criticism coming down on them early on in the year. They beat the Phillies 6-0. Pirates defeated the Reds 7-1. Paul Skeens took a no-hitter into the 6th. He picks up the win. And Tarik Skubal, the, of course, Cy Young Award winner in the American League, took the L yesterday against the Minnesota Twins. Twins win 4-2. All right, welcome back to Newswire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Sam McQuillan in the house from Legal Sports Report as we get ready to hit the NBA playoff scene. I'm sure Sam and I will be discussing some betting options, and folks had a lot of options during the NCAA tournament, more than ever with these prediction markets. And Sam, it does appear the prediction markets ended up doing okay here, and maybe because of the fact that they offered a better VIG potentially than some of the other sports betting options. That does make a ton of sense.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see these numbers roll in off March Madness. First with prediction markets like Kalshi reporting just the sheer total volume they took on the tournament. Kalshi took about $1.8 billion on March Madness, which includes season-long futures bets as well. So, bets placed before the tournament. But if you look at that 1.8 billion figure, that's about 3 times what it took on the U.S. presidential election a few years ago, which is its most traded market, and about the same as the total platform volume it took in all of 2024. So a ton of trading activity on Kalshi. I'll note, though, that the trading volume that these prediction markets report is not entirely the same as the handle that a sportsbooks report, because the handle is pure total dollars wagered, while the trading volume is more a contract that can be traded multiple times. So we're still kind of trying to figure out how exactly this all matches up to the sportsbook stuff. But Citizens had a really interesting note about the pricing, which you mentioned, Craig, specifically on game winner markets or money line markets and game total markets, over under on how much points is scored in one game. Mm-hmm. It found that Kalshi had the best pricing on those markets in about 47 out of 67 total tournament games, compared to sportsbooks like DraftKings, which I think only had the best pricing on about 5 or 17 rather, and FanDuel only had the best pricing on about 5. So Kalshi beating the sportsbooks on prices on, really active games this time of year. But really important to note, too, that that's not player props, that's not spreads, or the other markets that are really popular on sportsbooks. I think these markets are only about, I would say, maybe 20% of total activity on sportsbooks. And we've really seen nothing so far in the 7.5 years of legal sports betting to suggest really that customers actually care about these pricing differentials. I think for Kalshi, it would mean, if you bet $100, you maybe save $7 on a bet versus DraftKings or FanDuel. And as you know very well, Craig, customers don't really care about that. They kind of only care about same game parlays and long shot bets, which are at least the majority of customers that are on these sports books and the ones that these want to hold on to. So it'll be really interesting to see how, Kalshi moves forward with this kind of activity, especially as we round over into football season. They're obviously trying to develop their same game parlay product as well. But some interesting stats so far from March Madness.
Definitely so. Football season, though, Sam, got to wait a few months Feels like we're still far away from football season. But I digress. I'm heavy into baseball. All right, the CFTC initiating some action against some of the states that don't want the prediction markets operating there. And so we're getting some landmark movement here in legislature. You can read all about this over at legalsportsreport.com. But Sam, if this ends up coming to fruition, this is a very big win for the prediction markets if they reverse some of these dealings by the states.
Yeah, so far in this kind of prediction markets versus sports books versus states whole legal battle, which spans almost 20 cases, it's really been Kalshi and Polymarket versus the state gaming regulators. But yet for the first time, just late last week, the CFTC, which is the federal agency that says it's supposed to be the one regulating sports prediction markets, they came out and they sued Arizona, Connecticut, and Illinois, which are notably just three of the many states that are suing Kalshi and Polymarket to stop them from operating. CFTC basically trying to assert its exclusive federal jurisdiction over these markets. It's arguing that these are federally regulated derivatives, while the states are arguing that those are actually just sports betting products indistinguishable from what their laws say they can offer. They have to pay taxes, they have to follow their rules, etc. So it's notable that this is really the first time we've seen a federal agency get involved in a case like this. It's really only been companies versus the states. The CFTC is now kind of trying to defend its jurisdiction going forward. Certainly, we have no idea how this is all going to end up with the myriad of cases. We just had New Jersey ruling in favor of Kalshi in a 2-1 split decision, basically allowing the product to keep existing in New Jersey while these court cases unfold. States have largely won most of the other cases, about 14 out of 16, at least in the initial early rulings part, where basically a state is trying to stop them from currently operating while the cases play out. So that's a long way of saying this will all probably be decided by the Supreme Court eventually, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. But now that the CFTC is, going on the aggressive launching its own lawsuits, it kind of changes the dynamic a little bit and really shows that they're aligning themselves with these sports prediction markets. And I'll also note too, it's pretty interesting to note that these three states out of the 17 or 20 suing, all Democratic governors and all states that have taken action against these prediction markets. Obviously, the new regime in the White House has been very pro prediction markets, opposite of kind of the previous regime. So probably a lot more legal fees and lawyers on the way, but we'll keep monitoring it.
Sam, let's end with this. Louisiana considering banning prop bets, and then they took a look at the amount of money that they made as a state and said, wait a second here, maybe we're not doing as well as we are. It's kind of a sad state of affairs if that's really the case here with this, but Louisiana, for the time being, is going to allow prop bets to continue. I hate that it's all about money, but Sam, isn't everything all about money?
Of course, especially in sports betting and especially in state laws, Greg. You have the senator from Louisiana, Katrina Jackson Andrews, filed a bill to ban prop bets, to ban player props, to ban micro bets specifically, worrying that these kind of bets are frankly, lower margin for most average Americans, and they, give way to same game parlays and basically lose people a lot of money and get people addicted to gambling. But she withdrew this bill as soon as a fiscal note was produced that said the state would have lost about $30 million in tax revenue annually if it banned these markets. And that's because they're pretty much the most popular thing that sports books have. Without them, sports books would lose maybe 50% of their annual revenue. So obviously trickles down to the states. You mentioned it's kind of unfortunate to see it's all about money, but that's kind of what she came out and said this week when she said, I didn't really consider the financial repercussions, but I'm not done with proposing some sort of legislation regulating the space. Notably, what wasn't mentioned is something we've talked about a bunch too, is the integrity issues in sports. Major League Baseball changed their micro betting rules a bit after the Cleveland Guardians investigations came to light. There's been a lot of talk about banning prop bets outright in other sports, college sports specifically, that can allow people to manipulate these outcomes to kind of, rig money and, win for some illicit betting ring or something like that. So that wasn't brought up here, but I think it's important to note in the larger conversation of overall prop betting reform. But the first thing I think, first and foremost, is it would wipe out about half of the money that sports books make. and obviously in turn a lot of the taxes that the states make. So we'll see what she comes up with next year. But for now, prop betting still alive in Louisiana, and I imagine a lot of other states will kind of look to this as well as, hey, maybe we shouldn't go out with an all-right ban quite yet, and kind of take our time and propose something more pointed and specific that could really tackle the problem.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, any state that loses money is not going to be proposing ways to lose more money, and that's what prop bets do, is they make money for the sports books. All right, Sam, it is great to catch up with you here on Newswire, and we'll see you again Friday as we get ready to close out the week. Appreciate you coming on. And again, read all of Sam's work over at LegalSportsReport.com. Thanks for the time, Sam.